Have you ever had the experience where you were preparing for an exam, so you were staying up all night or staying up really, really late, and it's 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., and then you had to wake up at 7 for the exam or to go to school? Or another experience of, you're at a party and it's super fun and you're partying until 2 or 3 or 4 a.m., and the next day you had class, so you had to wake up at 6, so you only really got 2 hours of sleep. I want to ask you a question. Were you particularly bothered by the fact that you didn't get a lot of sleep that night? And your answer probably is, well, no. And yet, at the same time, people with insomnia tend to worry so much about the fact that they only got 2 or 3 hours of sleep, or have this really powerful reaction to being awake at night. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Dr. Parky. I'm a clinical psychologist and an expert in behavioral sleep medicine. I did my postdoctoral fellowship at Stanford's Sleep Health and Insomnia program, and I'm also the author of a self-help book for cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, known as the Insomnia Paradox, which I'll put in the link below. And I'm here to talk a little bit more about sleep education and providing you the right tools to be able to resolve your insomnia problem. So the reason I made this video is because I do think at the heart of insomnia disorder, there is this phobia or fear of sleeplessness and its consequences. So being awake at night is this torturous experience where we are unwilling to accept a wakefulness in the middle of the night, and we want sleep so badly, but that desire for sleep is in some ways the thing that keeps us sleepless throughout the night. What we resist tends to persist. And it's this desire for wanting to sleep that in some ways counterproductively increases our arousal, increases our fear of not being able to get sleep, which then paradoxically is what in some ways feeds the insomnia and leads to us having even worse of a night. And as an insomnia therapist, I see this unwillingness to accept wakefulness also one of the reasons why people struggle with CBT for insomnia, because they can't really, in some ways, accept the ideas of the treatment of CBTI in the context of, let's say, stimulus control, where you're asked to get out of bed if sleep is not coming. And you're like, oh my gosh, like that would basically mean I have to give up on this night. What if I don't fall back asleep? I would rather kind of toss and turn and like try and white knuckle some sleep to happen, because the idea of getting out of bed is just so spooky and it might rid me of any possible chance of falling back asleep. But as you can imagine, this unwillingness to accept wakefulness leads to more wakefulness, unfortunately, and it makes it hard to really engage with treatment to really give the strategies a try. And this is unfortunate because then the insomnia is maintained by the anxiety of not being able to accept wakefulness. So even though I imagine it can be hard to wrap your mind around, one thing that can be really, really helpful is to see if you can view the wakefulness at night a little bit differently with a slightly distinct quality that can it be seen, at least in some ways, as something that doesn't at least have to be super negative, if not, maybe even positive? Like, could this be seen as time that I could be doing something I enjoy, like maybe reading a book that I would never get to, or watching a movie that my partner doesn't want to watch? Like, can that be a time where I could see it just like the time I, went to a party and went to bed at like 3 a.m. or had to study for an exam, therefore didn't go to bed until really late, but still had to wake up early? Like, is that necessarily any different? Is it necessarily any different to be awake during the day versus at night? And, certainly this can sound a little bit foreign. It can be like, oh my gosh, but this is different because I've had so many poor nights stacked against me. But fundamentally, what I'm trying to say is that the role of acceptance and being able to lean into wakefulness is one pathway towards getting out of the insomnia cycle, because we don't feed the insomnia. We don't say, oh my gosh, like because I have insomnia, I can't, do anything that I enjoy. I have to fear the night. But instead, to be able to let go just a little bit and say, you know what? Maybe tonight isn't going to be the best night. Maybe I won't fall back asleep, but is tossing and turning really that enjoyable and fun? Like maybe I can just accept the wakefulness for tonight and do something I enjoy, watch a show, read a book, listen to something, listen to music, and then when the sleepiness comes, that's when I can listen to that and go back to bed, and then actually maybe have a much better night. And I do recognize this is much easier said than done because, poor sleep has its consequences. It's going to affect my next day. The next day is going to be more effortful. It's going to be, not as fun as it would be if I actually had a good night's sleep. And I think one thing that can be important is to say, you know what, like, yes, and I'm resilient. Like, you're somebody who has struggled with insomnia for a long time, and you are in some ways an expert of dealing with your insomnia, of being successful in spite of your sleep problems, to be able to say, you know what, like, yeah, like tomorrow will be a bit harder, but what I'm doing right now of getting out of bed, doing something I enjoy, accepting and leaning into wakefulness is actually going to be a solution long term for my overall sleep problem. So instead of resisting and allowing the insomnia persist, I'm going to starve the insomnia by doing the right things in terms of accepting wakefulness, still getting up at the same time, and making sure I'm building that appetite, the sleep pressure night after night to really break and kill the insomnia for good. So next time you have a hard night, see if you can lean into the wakefulness, carpe noctem, seize the night, and do something that you enjoy, that's pleasant and relaxing. Watch your favorite show, do something you like, listen to music, and then when the sleepiness is ready to take you away, then you can listen to it and get back to bed. Wishing you a better night ahead, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.